Thank you very much, and thank you, everybody. I realise this is the after-lunch slot. From that, I take it two things are going to happen. One of which is some people are going to come in and bang and clash the door as I'm talking. As they arrive in late from their lunch, that's absolutely fine. The second one of which is some of you might feel a little tired and pop out to grab an extra coffee. We've asked people not to move in and out of the rooms too much during the talks, but in all honesty, I get that it's after lunch and I don't mind. So if you need to grab a coffee or whatever it is, be my guest, it's really no problem at all. I hope that this morning has been really interesting for everybody. It's definitely been interesting for me, and it's hopefully no surprise that the themes of this morning are, I think, going to follow through into this afternoon. So before I really get started, I would like to do one thing there, which is just to give a very, very brief intro to JCSC for those who don't already know us, because there will be a few in the room and online who maybe don't. So, cybersecurity in Jersey. Firstly, that was the title that's in the brochure, Cybersecurity in Jersey. It's a very bland title. I've added two words to it, and they're important. The words where next. And the reason for that is, in 2017, government established a cybersecurity strategy. In 2021, they set up JCSC. Now, we have been going and delivering against that strategy for some period. At the same time, the world has changed in the way that Sir Graham Lamb mentioned this morning. You all heard his talk and the subsequent and prior talks talking about what that means in practice. What that means is we are going to have to change our approach. So rather than stand here and give the traditional talk from a head of a public body who wants to go through and talk about how great and successful last year was and what our individual organisation plans are for next year, I would like just to challenge ourselves a little bit to think about where we really are in this moment. So before I do that, very briefly for those who are new, JCSC, founded in 2021 as the Cyber Emergency Response Team, or CERT.je. We were renamed Jersey Cyber Security Centre a year or so ago, and really that's because of this stuff on the right here, where it says prepare, protect, defend. That's what we are here to do. And of course, emergency response is about firefighting. It's about responding, driving around with flashing lights, or in our case, no flashing lights, and no car, but still concept applies. Ideally, we don't want to do that. Yeah? The world is better when cyber emergency responders are not doing emergency response. We want to be ready, we want to be prepared, and we want to protect our island. And that is what we are trying to achieve as an organisation. Now, this is us. Yeah? And I've got this slide up here for a reason, because every single one of these team members is here today in this room. And also available to you if you're online or whatever else, feel free to get in touch. We're not secrets, we are here, we are in the community. If you want to do OPSEC on us and in our Jersey Cyber Security Centre, you will find it is a very open place with big windows and an open door. You are very welcome to come and say hello. We are a public body and we're here for the public and for you. We put that first. So this is our team. Hopefully, please do take the opportunity to introduce yourself, to say hello and have a conversation with them and help us get a better understanding of how we can help you and you a better understanding of how we can support your goals. So, what's the problem? Well, we've done a really good job together. That's the problem. The problem is that we have been working really, really hard and done lots of really good things to improve our cybersecurity. Yeah? 2013 Security Forum was set up. 10 years ago this year, the first of these conferences took place. UK NCSC followed in our trails. I think they might argue there was a predecessor in the UK, but this is Jersey, so I'm going to, for a moment, pretend that we got there first. I'm sure you'll all excuse me. First Government Cybersecurity Strategy 2017, updated data protection laws, the formation of CERT, incident response exercises, getting JCSC operational, all the changes in international rules, and of course, all the work that's been done by organisations to improve their controls. So the problem is, we've tried to improve our controls, and therefore we feel we have reduced our risk. But it's not quite that simple. So, how effectively have we been? And this is my summary. We have improved, but actually we have more to do. So these are just some stats from JCSC, and they're very beginning stats because we're new, but just to give you a little bit of feel of the sort of things that we've been dealing with. This is this year so far, 38 incidents we've supported and helped with. 5 was the highest number in a single day, which included 2 of the 3 classified as 1 to 3, our most highest category. So it is not just a volume, but an unpredictable volume as well. There are also some trends with these. So 2 due to an IDOR vulnerability. I've left that unexplained because you can all go away and research it to your heart's content. But the reason I pull that out is everyone thinks cybersecurity is about ransomware, it's about email. Well, what's IDOR? Well, actually, that is the ability to compromise a website just simply by changing the number in the field at the top where you type the URL. 2 of those already this year. There were others last year. These are uncomfortable trends. 11 of them leading to some form of fraud. 6 of them due to email compromise. There are some predictable trends in these incidents that we are seeing. And we're seeing these incidents for a reason. And the reason we're seeing the incidents is because we have vulnerabilities. So we track vulnerabilities reported to us and from our partners. 2,801 was the number of vulnerabilities we could see in Jersey on the 8th of October. Over the course of this year, we've notified 67 of the highest risk ones to industry. And 58% of those we've been able to confirm as being resolved. And that's great, that's good news, because a year ago, the answer was 0 to all of those questions. And that wasn't a better answer. It just meant that we had no visibility. So we have improved. But at the same time, I think this shows there is an opportunity for us to do better. And that follows through on other things that we did. We had a work experience student with us who actually did this piece of research for us earlier this year, part of the Trident program. I asked him to look at the information he could see on 181 Jersey organizations. And I said, look at whether the domains are properly configured for security, because having a secure domain doesn't mean you're secure, but it's like the plumbing. Yeah? If you've not got the plumbing right, if you've not got the foundations right, what you build on top, well, it matters, but not as much as you think. So it's good news. Yeah? Everyone enables encryption. Fantastic. If you want to encrypt your emails, you can do it via a Jersey organization. Lots of people do have DNS controls configured to prevent phishing and identity theft. I'm not going to talk technically about the specific controls, but I'm very happy to share the individual elements that make this up. Lots don't. There's lots that could be improved here as well. And there was a very small number of domains that got a perfect score in everything, which shows, I think, one, we're not terrible, but there is a significant opportunity to improve. We looked at this because the information is publicly available. Lots of things we can't see. This one we can. It just gives us a little bit of a picture. So I'm just going to ask, can anyone guess who got the perfect score? Because there really should be an award for this. If I had an award, I would ask Deputy Scott to hand it out. But I've not been that far thinking for this one, so we've not quite got there, but maybe we will do it later. Anyone care to guess who's perfect?
I'm hoping it's jcsc.je.
It is not. We're one down. We've still got one thing to do. This is the answer. Congratulations to Bureau des Îles Anglo-Normandes for the only perfect score in Jersey against this test we carried out. So really, honestly, I think that demands a round of applause. In fact, let's stop and give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is, how hard would it be to get this right? Well, I configured all of this for my personal domain. It took me about 30 minutes. So I'm not saying it's going to be that quick for an organization, but it is not insurmountable. So there is more that we can do. We also did an industry survey last year, and we looked at the level of controls within organizations in Jersey. It was less useful than I hoped, and it was less useful than I hoped because people responded and said, but we've got great controls. All our controls are nearly perfect. Well, actually, is that less useful? It's actually really, really useful to understand how people think they are. And if you have a look at these, so I'll move over here so I can point more accurately at one of these, we asked whether people have incident response plans that they test. Of those that do have an incident response plan, about half, less than half, actually test the incident response plan. Only 60% had an incident response plan in the first place. That's really 25% who are good. Thumbs up, yeah? Well done, those guys. Do you have independent assurance? And we had a list of 20 or so different options. Anything that you had, we gave a yes to. Doesn't matter what it is, pen testing, cyber essentials. If you had something, we said yes. Yes. No. So what we're saying is, regardless of all the controls we have in place, a lot of organisations have not tested their incident response plans. They don't know whether their controls work. And a lot of organisations have no independent assurance, so they are dependent on your own judgment. I don't know how good your judgment is, but I can tell you that my daughter got 100% in all the last school tests that she marked herself. And I'm fairly sure that I got the same score when I was at school. Even if we mean well, it is not entirely objective. She probably did actually get 100%, but that's because she's brighter than me, but there we go. It's not entirely objective. So we did have no independent assurance. Against that, how confident do you feel that you've implemented the right controls and will be able to defend and recover against a cyber attack? Does that feel right to you? Hands up if that feels right. We've not tested how ready we are, so we don't know if our controls work. No, we've not asked anybody else for a second opinion, but we think we are fine. Now, I'm not saying this narrative goes for everybody, but it is the dominant narrative coming out of this. Now, this made me think back to a talk that our Chief of Police, Robin, gave a couple of weeks ago, and he was asked what was the biggest risk facing Jersey. And he offered up two: cyber and complacency. Well, I think maybe we have his answer. Yeah. So we have improved. We have not improved enough. I think that is clear. Yeah. However, we have a bigger picture here, yeah, which is the attackers are continuously improving. Now, I won't go into this a lot because it has been covered this morning, but things like AI, things like increased automation toolkits, in the future things like quantum, it is a fundamental shift. Yeah, as Sir Graham said this morning. The attackers are getting better and better. Where are we now? I look back in history because there's always got to be a point in history which is comparable to where it feels today. And this is the only one I came up with. This is the Gutenberg printing press. Before the printing press, the spread of information was minimal. The spread of information could be easily controlled. Post the printing press, and I appreciate it took a few generations, few centuries, rather than a few weeks as it does today, the spread of information was much, much faster. Information wasn't free, but it was much more affordable. People not in authority could produce information more easily. And what that led to, of course, was a lot of wonderful things that we have today, but also it led to increased conflict, information warfare. We've seen that run consistently through 2 world wars in the last century through to where we are today. It led to religious conflict and warfare. It led to international expansionism. It led to a lot of negatives as well as the positives. And we feel to me to be at a similar, I'm going to use the phrase that Sir Graham did, inflection point, which is all of these changes coming together, building in together at the same time, create this point in time where we really have to ask ourselves, is this good enough? And it gets harder, because the threats are increasing as well. We have the sort of geopolitical tension that Sir Graham talked about. We have Russia's war in Ukraine. It did impact Europe. It did impact Jersey. We have changes in the way people use our data. When we put data online, it's not used for the reasons that we think it'll be used. Hybrid warfare, organized crime, terrorist financing. The nature of these threats have increased exponentially. So what does that create? It creates this growing challenge, and we have to ask ourselves, actually, we thought we've been doing a good job. We have had the right steps. We've been taking the right steps. We've been understanding what we're doing. Are we doing enough? And just to be clear with this slide, I'm not saying that anybody is good or bad. I'm saying the world out there is complex. Because also, to Sir Graham's point easier, just saying, oh, there's a bogeyman in the corner is not the answer. We have to appreciate the complexity of the environment in which we as Jersey operate. But it is complicated, and it is fact. If I had talked about this 20 years ago, I would have been laughed out of a boardroom, even though I knew that this was what was the situation that we were walking into. Today, I hope that would not be the case. So we know where we are. All we need to do is decide how we are going to act on it. And the short answer is we need to improve faster and we need to improve further. And this is a really good time to be answering that question because we have some plans, but those plans are going to need everybody in this room to contribute to. So I'm going to talk first the plans for us, individual organisations, what can we do? And this is the point where people will go for the coffee because they go, God, he's not going to moan on about this stuff again, am I? Yes, I am. Passwords and two-factor authentication, you wouldn't believe the number of documented risk exceptions and controlled exceptions there are in Jersey that says, yes, for these systems, but not for that one. Has anyone ever successfully given a hacker a risk exception and says, I'm sorry you're attacking us, you may not have read our risk acceptance? Yeah. Anyone handed them a control exception document and said, yeah, we said not for that system, so please don't attack that one, it doesn't work. Basics, passwords, two-factor authentication, is it enough? No. It is the absolute bare minimum on every single system. Patching. This is so hard, and one of the top reasons people say they can't do Cyber Essentials is it requires patching in 14 days. It can't be hard because we can't afford for it to be hard. We need to figure out how to do patching at speed. We need to figure out how to do it comprehensively. Everybody in our survey said they did patching. I'm absolutely sure if I followed that up and they say, do you just mean your Microsoft systems that automatically patched, or do you mean everything? I would have got a very different answer. We need to challenge ourselves on the basics. There's also an element of where JCSC can help. A problem shared, well, I would like to say it's a problem halved, but it may not be, but it's a problem easier to deal with. So we have a role where we can play as well, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. But it's not just about what you can do as organizations or what JCSC can do, because there is a bigger picture here. And for the last couple of years, we have been focused on let's establish our first steps on this cybersecurity journey. Let's stand up JCSC. Let's give ourselves a defensive capability, create an opportunity for the island to learn, to develop, and to defend itself. But it's not going to be sufficient, because what really contributes to cybersecurity, really good cybersecurity, is a great deal more than that. So I'm going to talk about that just for a minute. What is it that we need to do as a community? And I would like to thank Oxford University for the kind slides which you can sort of see. I can see them, so it's fine. Basically, there's a framework for national cyber capacity building that talks about all the different things a jurisdiction needs to think about for cybersecurity. Now, if you were to look at these, you would see, what about cybersecurity policy and strategy? Is that JCSC? Anyone think that's JCSC's job? Well, we can input to it, but Deputy Scott is shaking her head because she knows who's responsible for that. Thank you very much for picking up that one, Deputy Scott. We're very pleased to have you working hard to improve this. There's a huge element here for government. Instant response and crisis management, is that JCSC's job? Partly, sometimes. But we position ourselves as an instant responder of last resort. That means if you're picking up the phone to us asking us to actually fix your computers, as opposed to coordinate, provide you with intelligence and support, the second question you should be asking yourself is why you didn't have somebody already contracted, ready to go, who can do that for you. So we might do some of that so much. Critical infrastructure protection, defence and national security, these are really big questions for Jersey. Defence and national security cuts across into what the UK does versus what we do. Some debates there to be had, I think. Critical infrastructure protection, we've had a lot of conversations about these, but we have seen issues, what happens when our critical infrastructure is compromised. Latest compromised critical infrastructure, I would argue, is Microsoft Azure the other month. Yeah, critical infrastructure is wider than we sometimes think it is. Culture and society, who thinks this is JCSC's job? I mean, it'd be great fun, yeah? We could do a lot of fun engagement and stuff like that, and we do some. But no, not really. Some of it is. So improving user understanding, absolutely. Building trust and confidence in online services, sometimes. Media and online platforms, we have almost no control over that. We as a community, however, do have huge control over what we use. So again, it is for all of us. Yeah, try not to fall over. Dimension 3, building cybersecurity knowledge and capabilities. Now, I'm not going to ask you if this is JCSC's job because we know the answer, because on my first slide it said 10 years ago we set up something called the Channel Islands Information Security Forum. So, Dave, education, awareness building, engagement in cybersecurity, JCSC's job? Partly. Yeah, and partly the professional community, and partly the government, and partly every organisation in this room, and partly us as individuals, because I doubt there is a person in this room, given that we all have this interest, who hasn't been approached by someone who says, should I pay for this? Should I buy this off Twitter? Yeah. Do you think this advert is safe? We all have a role in education. So do our schools. So does our education system. And we need to ask ourselves quite seriously whether we're doing enough in all of these areas. What else? Legal and regulatory frameworks. JCSC's job. Is Elizabeth in the room? I think Elizabeth is here somewhere. There you are, Elizabeth. Very good. I think you would agree not entirely JCSC's job. She is nodding. So Elizabeth Blumpier is one of our brilliant policy officers in the government of Jersey, working very, very hard on the cybersecurity law. The reason she knows that's not just JCSC is she knows substantially that burden is government's burden, but it is not entirely government's either. There was a consultation for a reason, everyone input for a reason. That law is taking longer to implement than it could for a reason. We're still making good progress. Is it fast enough? Are we doing enough? Are people saying, yes, bring it on, or are they saying, hold on a second, this is a burden I don't want? What are we saying in response to that? We all have a role to play. And standards and technologies is kind of the hardest bit in many ways. Is our communications and infrastructure resilience where it needs to be? Are our telcos where they need to be? Well, we've been answering this question. Government's been working on this question. The telcos have as well. Things like responsible disclosure, security controls, software quality. Some of these things are the areas we have least control over and we're most dependent on the rest of the world. But we still need to know what our answer to these questions is. So my point with all of this isn't to ask you to get you to go into detail on every single point. It's to point out, yes, we have made some positive steps. You as organisations have made some positive steps. Have a round of applause, tap yourself on the back, great. However, the world is a big and scary place, and we now know this for a fact. So we have to up our game. The question is, how far do we want to up the game? So this is what I have to tell you for next year. We have a plan for Jersey Cybersecurity Centre. There are things that we are going to do that we are committed to do to help and support this community with their cybersecurity. We're deploying a new incident management system. I think, Paul, you're at the back of the room. You're leading on that, Paul Deteau, person to talk to if you want to know more about that. We're doing enhanced local and international collaboration, and we are collaborating with all sorts of people. Iceland and Bahamas, obviously, have very kindly come along to talk to us today. That is part of our international engagement programme. But also local collaboration. What do I mean by that? Well, my colleague Matt, are you in the room? Matt Derrian? He is over there, Matt Derrian over there. Matt is coordinating our CISO forum where we bring together security leaders from the key businesses around the island and help to have that two-way engagement on how we drive JCSC forward and help them. We also have a supplier forum. There are lots of great sponsors of this event, and they're all in the booklet, and absolutely please go and talk to them. And we are very grateful in particular for their engagement with JCSC and their help and support to understand the path that we should be taking and how we do that in a way that also enhances Jersey's economy. So local collaboration as well. The Cyber Shield, I mentioned this last year. If you want to know more about it, it is in the book and online. But this is about us providing some real proper protection capability in addition to the controls you operate to help you know when there are vulnerabilities and issues and to help you understand what to do about them. Community incident readiness exercises. Who's attended one this year? Well, more of you should. Yeah, they're really, really good, and my thanks to Lynn Cappy and Soteria for helping us facilitate those. All that is getting 15 people in a room, walking through a real-life incident, asking ourselves what can we learn from that. And why do we do that? Is it because incidents are full of surprises? Is there anyone in this room who has not seen an incident happen, even themselves, read about in the paper? I mean, we've all been through COVID. We know what an incident looks like. Yeah? It is not a surprise. What is a surprise when you go into an incident is how it feels. Yeah? What is a surprise is how little time you have to make decisions. What is a surprise is how unproductive it is, saying, I wish we'd done that differently. Yeah? You just have to go with what you have on the day. Going through an incident is the best way of preparing for it, whether it's cyber or anything else. So we will continue running those, and we will continue asking all of you to engage with those. Cybersecurity Jersey law, the proposed cybersecurity Jersey law, come into in a second. We have a lot to do to implement this and support you with it, including the guidance, the practices, the deployment of processes around operators of essential services, and we'll be working very hard on that. So how do we guide you and support this community to understand what you can best do? How do we interact with regulators, with other bodies, with international standards, and really help create an environment that enables Jersey businesses and organisations rather than holding them back? Yeah? We don't want cybersecurity to be a cost. We want it to be an enabler of a trusted jurisdiction. So we're going to do that, and that's all ticks, because we're committing to it. We are saying, I am saying, yes, we are going to do those things to help you. Yeah. Cybersecurity law, again, government, are saying, cybersecurity law, we are going to do these things to help. We're going to give JCSC a formal remit, because it doesn't have one today. Yeah. We're going to have clear definitions of what we mean for cybersecurity, for incidents and so on, so we're all on the same page. We're going to define who are the most important operators in Jersey, who we're going to care about the most. We're going to have sensible requirements to ask them to report incidents to us in a timely manner so that we can coordinate and support the rest of industry. We're going to make sure that that reflects international equivalents. We've understood what Europe are doing, the US are doing, the UK are doing, and as we roll this out, it supports Jersey to operate in an international environment. And we're going to try and be compatible with the future, and I'm really pleased as I look at the cybersecurity law that we have drafted, it is very compatible with the future. So as the UK are talking about things like changing, adding into things like definitions of operators of essential services, we've given ministers in that law the ability to exercise the same discretion. So we have tried as far as possible to future-proof that in sensible ways. And the government is full on with this. They are being incredibly supportive and saying, yes, we need to do this. So government saying yes, we're saying yes. I can tick all of those. What about the rest of it? The next challenge is our cybersecurity strategy as an island. And as I mentioned, these slides here talk about all these different elements. Where do they come together? They come together in our cybersecurity strategy, and the last one was written in 2017, and we can give ourselves a round of applause, we can clap ourselves on the back, because very largely that has been delivered, and it's great. The problem is the world has moved substantially forward, and we need to raise our game. But that doesn't mean we can just say, great, let's go all out. We have to have a conversation about what that means, what it involves, how ambitious do we want to be. So what I've done here is I've said, these are some things that I am looking for in terms of that strategy. The question for you is, what are you looking for? The question for the professional community is, what are we as a professional cybersecurity community looking for? And are we going to keep it to ourselves, or are we going to input and tell the government, tell policy officers, tell the minister what we think so that they can make these difficult decisions? Because to be clear, they are difficult decisions, yes? I would like a cybersecurity strategy that ticks these boxes. It's evidence-based, it's realistic, it has input, it has industry support, it has clear goals, balancing resource requirements with other public priorities. And this is where sometimes as cybersecurity professionals we fall short. Because one of the things we have to understand is once we take this up to a jurisdictional strategy, we're no longer talking about whether it's a good idea to secure a computer, or whether it's a good idea to have this policy, or whether it's a good idea to use this. We're asking ourselves, is it a better idea to spend taxpayers' money doing cybersecurity, fixing potholes, improving education, running the hospital? These are difficult decisions, and it is very difficult for government to make these decisions in a vacuum. So my appeal to everybody, please, as a community, how can we contribute when government is in a position that they are going out and talking about this? Are we ready to give them informed opinions and views? Are we ready? Are we ready to say this is what we want as a community? 10 years ago, when the Channel Islands Information Security Forum was set up, and we went down to a pub and had a conversation, my expectation was that that community would say to us, well, yeah, we'd quite like to have a few drinks and chat about cybersecurity. And what that group of people actually said is we want to be ambitious for Jersey. You know, we want Jersey to be a cybersecurity centre with cybersecurity strength, one where cybersecurity contributes to our economy, our well-being and our international reputation. And that's great. This is the means by which that can be delivered or not. So please engage with that. The final one is, part of this plan for next year is your actions and your actions within your organisation and personally. Now, there are a few things that have been talked about today. Yeah, I've summarised some of these here, the ones that I think are particularly important. Patching, removing of obsolete systems. Seriously, guys, no excuse for having a system that's no longer in support. Either get rid of it, chuck it in a corner and box it off and keep it separate. Do something with it, yeah? Great access management, absolutely critical. Exceptions, not valued by hackers, yeah? Except to put coffee cups on, yeah? Yeah, risk exceptions won't help. Risk acceptance won't help, yeah? Monitoring. If we don't know what's going on, how are we going to know when we have a problem? Yeah, lots of us do no monitoring. We can help a little bit with the Cyber Shield, but there's also some monitoring you can do yourself. Cyber Essentials, there are 4 controls in Cyber Essentials. Yeah, I know it breaks down into a little bit of work, but we now have 4 organisations in Jersey who can help you with Cyber Essentials as an approved partner of IASME. That's the same as the whole of Northern Ireland, guys. That's a really good position to be in. So let's use those providers and do an assessment that is affordable and sensible and ask ourselves, are we doing the basics? Because it's great if you're up here, yeah, but if you're up here and have all those fantastic controls and don't patch your systems, you might as well not be. Yeah. So do that. And if we're not going to do that, ask ourselves the question, how do we know we're still okay? Because there's always some reasons. For some organisations, there's no one size fits all. Yeah, get it. And how do we know that we're still okay? Are we still doing the basics? If we did that basic stuff, would it make us more secure? And if not, why are we not doing it? Instant response testing. I mentioned this. If you're not sure how to go about this, just come along to one of our community exercises, join the team, ask questions, listen to them. They will show you how to do this. And intelligence sharing and instant notifications. So there's been a lot of noise about the cybersecurity law and how that's going to require instant notifications. So there's something I need to explain about this. There are 2 types of organisation under the cybersecurity law: operators of essential services and others. Requirements report incidents only for operators of essential services. There are 2 types of incident: significant and others. Requirement only for significant. Out of all those incidents I showed you on the first slide, only 3 would have hit that radar. We would have been blind to all the rest. So what we're really asking you, apply the principles of good information sharing, collaboration, and working together as a community. Share information, engage with us as we go about this. And I'd like to end, and I am going to end, because Dave here is tapping and saying I'm out of time. It still says 000. I'm not over. I'm being careful. I want to ask you this: cybersecurity or complacency? Come back to this question, not just from what I've talked about today, but also what Sir Graham said earlier, what our colleagues from Iceland said earlier, Recorded Future, from Pentest Partners, bringing all of that in together. And think about this for yourself. Are you in that 90th, 100th percentile? So I'm just going to ask you, hands up, those of you who think that they are in that 90th or 100th percentile of great controls in which they have complete confidence. Hands up. So I guess that answers the question. Thank you very much. What I'd like to do now, oh, sorry, you can do a round of applause, that's fine, it's no problem, don't mind. Yeah. Yeah. What I'd like to do now is invite Nick, where are you, Nick? Over here from NCSC. Our collaboration with NCSC is absolutely essential. We are all part of that community that Sir Graham talked about. I'm really looking forward to hearing what Nick has to say. Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you.